Welcome to the 2350 Effect. Welcome to the 2350 Effect.
Yep, it's another Sunday, and welcome to the 2350 Effect. I am your co-host, collaborator, Damian Kinsey, and I'm joined, as always, by Dr. Farron. Dr. Farron, introduce yourself to everyone.
Hey, everyone. Happy Sunday. Glad to be back with you tonight. I am delighted to have this conversation that we're going to have tonight with Nicco, and we'll talk about him in just a minute. But excited to be here and love co-hosting this event with Damian. So thanks so much for joining us.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation. Our guest tonight is, I guess this is his first time on this platform doing this. You know, I met him about 8 years ago. Him and I worked together in a nonprofit organization at Boys Town. We were actually in the same cohort for pre-service, working with youth and families, supporting a community-based programming where we went inside the homes and provided support and services for families from anywhere from 6 to 9 months and 12 months, and linking them to services. But he has gone on to continue to do great things, working with at-risk youth and families in the Florida area, going out to their families, their homes, inside, providing services. And he has pivoted and decided to create his own company and organization over the last month and focusing on burnout with teams and getting them into that space where they're going from that proactive level of support services so teams don't get burned out. Please welcome Nicco to the 2350 Effect. Nicco, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having me.
I'm glad to have you as well. Hey, we go back 8 years. Wow.
Yeah.
Time goes by quick.
I know.
You know? All right. So, Nicco, first question I always want to, matter of fact, you know what? Since we go back, I kind of want to go back, you know, in a segment that we used to do, that we didn't do, and we do, and we always wanted to start off at times with a laugh call text. Laugh call text is that thing in the last 7 days that means you laugh out loud, get on the phone and call somebody or text them. Nicco, I'll go first while you're thinking about it. What is your laugh, your call, your text of the week? And I'll go first. My laugh, my call, text this week is my Jets won. We were 0-7. You know, there's nothing to laugh about. There's something to call about and something to text about. You know, I was talking about, you know, someone who didn't really know about the football and like, oh, the Jets good? No, they are the worst team in football when you're 0-7. But we won and we should be 5-2. So that is my laugh, my call, my text. And then the other thing is today, me and Dr. Farron were talking about a lot of things. So that's my laugh, call, text as well.
Damian, I am so happy for you. Congratulations. You are just probably the most loyal Jets fan, and your team won today. I know that you have been waiting for that to happen. Congratulations. I'm really excited.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I
So
know the players are thankful too because they do that for a living, and losing is fun with you.
right. That is exciting. That's exciting. So those of you in the audience, drop in your laugh, call, or text. Let us know something fun, something funny, something like that happened with you, this weekend. So you guys, I had to laugh. I told Damien this the other day. I just got back from my mother's house. Those of you that celebrate Christmas, we just put up my mother's Christmas tree. It is not even Halloween yet, but she is going out of town for a while. So I know she wanted to have it up before the holidays started, and she loves having my kids over. So we were kind of laughing about it, actually. We put it in a group text and sent the pictures of the tree finished out, and my husband texted back and said, "Happy Halloween, everyone." So that was our laugh call text. It was fun. We had a great time together as a family. So that was great. And Damien and I have been spending a lot of time, you guys, getting ready for our next event. So I know we've met, I don't know, did we talk yesterday? We talked today, and we're talking tomorrow. So many great things happening. So lots of good calls and conversations of things that are up and coming. So how about you, Nicco? What's your laugh call or text?
Yeah, so I got a text from a former coworker, and keeping on the same theme of football, Damien, it was about our Florida State Seminoles. So we were joking about how bad we are and how we're hoping to get a new coach very soon. So that is my laugh out loud moment.
I love that. We're kind of Florida Seminole fans, actually, Nicco. I'm in Missouri. However, my husband and I are Florida State softball fans, and
Okay.
we're trying to go to a football game. So maybe we should wait, huh? I love it.
Yeah, and Nicco, I give you another one. A laugh call text. I got a text message from Dominic. It's when he saw that you was on here as well. And then I'm gonna close the loop and thread it to Dr. Farron. Dominic is the individual who told me about the pizza in St. Louis that I had to go to. Me, him, and Nicco were all in training together 8 years ago.
Oh yeah, that all comes together. Thank you. Yes, I love that.
So I wanted to make sure I closed the loop in that conversation.
That makes perfect sense. Yes.
All right. So you want to take the first question, or you want me to take the first question, Dr. Farron?
I'll take it. I want to just acknowledge everybody that's in the audience right now. So thank you so much for joining us tonight. Thank you, Christy. Hello, family. Yes, we love our 2350 network family. Dr. Bet Carr, principal from India. Thank you, Lay. Thank you for joining us. It's great to see you again, even in the comments. Jackie Hallberg, thank you for your ever support. And Tommy, thanks for joining us tonight. Lisa Fevick, Nick, thank you so much for being with us tonight. I appreciate you all very much.
And if you're out there, please throw in where you're coming from so we can know that you're out there.
Yeah, exactly. So please throw in where you're from, drop in the chat, join us in this conversation. If you have questions for Nicco as we're going through, drop them in the chat. Also, we'll go grab those as well. So Nicco, this is a simple question. Like, who is Nicco? Like, who is he?
Yeah, so I would describe myself as a man of faith, purpose, and passion. Really feel like I'm here to make a difference, and that has always been with youth and families, specifically at-risk youth and families. Starting off in college, I did mentorship with youth in low-income communities. I went to Florida State and did an internship, and through there, I did foster care family services, and then was brought on to Boys Town and did case management for a few years, and then went on to oversee a home detention program for juveniles on house arrest. And then recently opened up my own business, Purpose Works Consulting Group, to work with agencies to help cut turnover, ensure compliance, and drive sustainable growth. Outside of work, I like to be by the water, whether that's taking walks by the water, being on the boat, kayaking. I like spending time with friends and family, and I enjoy watching football. Like I said, I'm a big Florida State Seminoles fan and a big Tampa Bay Bucks fan, and we won tonight.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for all the things that you do to help our families, our children, our world completely, our world. Those are big jobs. And, those are things that a lot of people don't really understand or realize about those services that are available and the things that we do to help. And I say we in the sector of education, even, helping people. And so It sounds like you're very passionate about what you do, and I'm sure you're amazing at it. It sounds like you're amazing. So thank you for what you do. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
that. Mhm.
So, Nicco, I'm definitely aware that your journey started with an internship, and then you started working with kids and families and communities. What made you decide that you was going to take the internship on, and then eventually turn that into your passion and purpose on working with kids and families and communities at risk youth?
Yeah, so interesting enough, I actually started off going to college. My original major was radiology, which is x-rays. And it wasn't really a passion, it was just a way to make money. And I started, like I said, working with at-risk youth in the community, and something I fell in love with. And I switched my major to social work. I still remember going to dinner with my parents and telling them, hey, mom and dad, I'm switching to social work, and seeing their faces. But it was really a passion of mine. And University of Florida did not have a social work program. So I went to Florida State, and for my bachelor's in social work. I fell in love with the institution, with the program. I talked to one of my professors who's also a mentor of mine while I was there, and he suggested Boys Town, that it was a great organization. So I signed up, I got the internship. I did that for the fall semester, and it was honestly an amazing opportunity to shadow and see what the foster care case managers did and the administration side. So something I really enjoyed, and they ended up bringing me on as a case manager. And so really through my experience, I really wanted to step outside of the box, and do my own thing, especially going to leading being over the home detention program. I did that for 6 years, and I feel like my experience between being frontline in the field to being over this large program kind of gave me that expertise and that knowledge to help other agencies in need.
Well, thank you for that. Got a chance to meet you because of that.
Well, and I think, so the way that we're kind of talking through this, you talked about the different, areas and programs, but what does this mean for like a regular, like a person like me? You're telling me, what did you do every day? Like, what do you do?
Yeah, what do I do every day?
Like, what do you do in this field, right?
Right. Can you expand on that?
Yeah. So, for example, you talk about going in and doing home visits, or you talk about being over supervising, centers and things like that. So, what does that really look like? Who can go to that? How do they, be, just like, what is the programs like? You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, starting off, I started out in the field working directly with youth and families. And that's how I started. And then I kind of throughout my career got promoted to supervisor. So I was limited in the field, and then eventually being promoted to director. Really, my job was to oversee operations. And so I was over 48 staff. So my job was making sure that they're in the field, seeing the youth appropriately, that they're following the rules. And so that was really my job there. So what I'm doing now is working with the organizations to making sure that they have smooth operations, that they're maintaining their contract compliance. So I would like go in and do an audit, provide any coaching or leadership training that's needed to maybe prevent some of the turnover and help with retention as well.
Mm-hmm. So I guess what I'm trying to ask is, so if a person is going into the field, or they're a field worker, they're going in and working with a family who may have, a child may have behavioral issues, or, maybe something with the law, or, the parents might be struggling. Is that what you're talking about? People, you would have social workers that go in and help support the families and find them services that they would need to help them grow and to, foster their relationships.
So, Nicco, she's kind of asking about, the work when you started as like a consultant, and how you use linkages and how families navigate, deal with their
people can understand.
And then being able to, how did you support those families as a consultant, and then shift to supervision, and what was those caseloads like?
Yeah.
Yeah. So as a case manager, so you would go in and really do an assessment and see what were the needs of the family. So let's say there is a need in therapy services. So you would link them to therapy. And then what I would do as a case manager is I would either go to the sessions to have conversations with the therapist, have conversations with the parents, do follow-ups. I would meet with the families every week to go over progress to see how they're doing and support them. So that's kind of how, kind of what I did.
And thank you for explaining that, because I think people don't really understand what those services are, like, so that's important for people to know that those services are out there, for people. And I think that's very important for them to understand and know. So there's, there's times in people's lives where they don't know where to go next, right? They don't know what the next step is or what to do. And so, organizations like Boys Town, things like that can help families and, our youth, make changes in their life or get the help that they might need, things like that. Such
Yeah.
important work.
And it was a free program if you had Medicaid, so it was completely
Mhm.
free to have those services.
Nice. Yeah. And it's important for people to know that they can access those resources as well.
Correct.
Yeah, that's amazing. Mhm.
So, I'm kind of biased. I love Boys Town, the work they did.
Mhm.
Nicco as well. They had a lot of services and support, and they still do have a lot of services and support. We would go to Nebraska for 2 weeks. We would we would go through a training. We would, kind of get your mind centered on the essence of working with kids and families and communities. And I know you did a lot of work in going inside families' homes and going into their working with them, and also working with them during a tough time during the during that transition from going in person to the hybrid work as well. And a lot of it in social services at that point in time, you had social services agencies, you had
Mhm.
tech, you had school, you had education, you had healthcare, all going through this level of burnout. And that's around the same time when you started moving up in the ranks in the field and going from direct care to managing, and then now you're doing your own thing, working on overcoming burnout and helping organizations support. What was the thing that made you say, oh, okay, all right, here's where I need to focus on supporting teams on a different level? And what was that first time when you saw that level of burnout where you wanted to help someone else?
Yeah, honestly, it probably I've experienced it myself professionally, I think in 2019, I experienced burnout. So I've experienced it myself. And really just being a manager and overseeing, like, especially recently, I know we had a conversation when we got on. It just seems like a lot of the workforce is burnt out. And so I really wanted to kind of take my knowledge and my experience that I have to help other organizations to help with burnout and turnover. So I wanted to really, have my expertise there. When I left the last organization I was at, we had only a 6% vacancy rate. And I think one of the things we did to turn things around, I feel like, especially in our field, is a lot of the times we get people onboarded and then we want to just throw them in the field and they get overwhelmed and they get burnt out. And I feel like our field, the 0 to 3 months, is the most impactful, where people get burnt out and they quit. So I found taking our time, going through more training, because before we'd have like a training checklist and it was everything to meet like the contract. But what we did, we dove in deep, like, what are some other things that we can do? And so what we did in-depth, expansive, and the case manager would sign off and the supervisor would sign off before they got a caseload and were in the field. And so we found that has been super helpful for new hires in managing burnout.
And that's why I wanted people to understand, really, what do these caseworkers do? They have an overload, and that does contribute to burnout, right? And a lot of times our case managers are dealing with challenging situations for families. They're hard stories to hear, they're hard solutions to provide sometimes. And so that does sort of create some burnout, right, for them. So knowing that and looking like these first 3 months that I've got my people in the field, this is when I need to help guide them the most, provide them the most support. And so that's great that you're able to see that picture and look at that, from a supervision standpoint. Let me ask this question. Is there a shortage of social workers? I don't even know. Is there a shortage? Are we coming up with shortages of social workers like they are educators?
Not that I'm aware of.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not that I'm aware. It is always hard though, finding and keeping people. And there's obviously, vacancy rate is pretty bad. And I think the turnover percentage in our field is like 60 or 70%. So it is
Yeah.
pretty high.
Yeah. So finding the right people, the right fit
The
too.
right
Probably
fit.
as a social worker, you also have a niche that you have to find, I'm assuming as well, right? Some people want very young youth, some people want adults, some people, want elderly. Like there's a lot of work for social workers in, the world. And so people probably don't even know that realm of social work can be pretty large,
Yeah.
that they can work in. So yeah. And that is interesting. So to find out that that's a large percentage of turnover, 60% or so, something like
Mhm.
that. So then you noticed that and decided to, create your own business.
Yeah. 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 So 'cause I really do feel like this can be managed. And I think there's things that we can put in place to significantly reduce it. And I think one of those is having realistic expectations. I think I think that's one contributes to a huge reason to burnout is
Mhm.
unrealistic
Mhm.
expectations and lack of support from your supervisor. So I
Mm.
think there's different things in place that supervisors and organizations can do to keep staff on board. And there's also something with Gallup about providing feedback. A lot of staff just want that whether it's constructive feedback, whether they're doing well. And a lot of people like to be recognized differently. Some don't like public recognition, some do. So having those conversations, I think, can help prevent burnout.
Yeah, I love that. I'm sorry. I'm going to say one more thing, Damien, then I'm going to be quiet for a minute. I think that building relationships with your staff is so huge, right? Literally taking that 10, 15 minutes when you're onboarding a staff member, like to know them, like you were saying, some want to be publicly recognized, some want to be kept to themselves, some are looking for 3 mentors, some just need one, some says point me in the right direction, the other one says hold my hand, so really learning what they need, I think, is so important.
Yep.
And it sounds like you've got a real good pulse on that. I'm gonna be quiet now, Damien.
No, that's a good question. When you're saying a good postal, it made me think about what we were talking about yesterday in Leadership Eliminated. We were talking about, and you brought up the topic of, having those checks and balances in place. And Nicco's talking about that level of constructive feedback or criticism or support and recognition for your team in different ways. How do you teach other people to find the good fit and the sore spot and a healthy balance of how to, praise people and give constructive feedback and also figure out what motivates other team members? How do you kind of do that, Nicco?
Yeah. Well, one is making sure that the supervisors are having those conversations. What I've found is a lot of supervisors avoid difficult conversations, and it continues to pile up and it gets worse until it gets to a place where it's unmanageable. So I think first and foremost, if there are issues going on, addressing it, but also making sure, like when we're doing monthly supervisions or we're meeting, that we're not just focusing on the negative, but also focusing on the positive and giving things that they are doing good at and giving constructive feedback or giving stretch assignments so they can be successful. And also going back to teaching them how to praise and having having the supervisor have the conversation. How do you like to be praised? How do you like to receive feedback? I think those are super important conversations to have. And so it would really be working with the supervisor through some of those areas to making sure they're having those conversations with their staff.
And my guess sometimes supervision. It sounds like things move fast sometimes in the field, right? You may have a field worker, supervisor leaves, the field worker goes in, maybe not fully ready to be leader, but we need this person. You know what I mean? And it just kind of sometimes happens. So you've got to develop those leaders, like you're saying, how do you develop those leaders to help support the people that are working in the field? And be able to, bridge that gap between those two. And so, like Damien was saying, we talked about this on Leadership and Lemonade. We always have great conversations with our network about leadership, but yeah, you touched on some really good points with that.
Yes, spending enough time in supervision. Like you said, we're all super busy, so sometimes you want to just rush through it, finish up quick, but you're really doing a disservice to yourself and to the staff member by doing that.
Yeah.
And speaking of supervision, you talk about supervision being monthly. I know we come from a weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, depending on the level of the person in supervision framework. Tell me about the importance of those check-ins during supervision, because sometimes you have organizations and companies that use supervision as a lecturing tool or punitive tool.
Yep.
Tell me about, because I know you do a lot in supervision around building someone up and doing a lot of check-ins. Tell me something about that.
Yeah, check-ins are huge. If you're only doing supervisions once a month and you're not checking in, that's going to be a major, major issue. So weekly check-ins are extremely important. And basically it's just checking, how are they doing? How are they managing things? Do they need anything from me? How can I support you? Even going back to the monthly supervisions or check-in, seeing if they need a day off. So we would always schedule mental health days off or start planning vacation days out in advance so we don't get to that burnout session. So those weekly check-ins are super important. And it just shows that you care. Like when you're checking in and it doesn't have to be a super long conversation, but it shows that staff member that you care, that you're checking in on them.
Thank you for that. That feeling that what the person who is supporting you, who is your leader, is checking in with you, and they don't want anything other than to see if you're okay. Like you said, do you need days off? It's important because some people go so long through the process and they forget to say, you know what, all right, I have an appointment. I need to kind of schedule that appointment and take care of myself or get the day off. How do you incorporate that into your new business?
That's a good question. Well, really I think for myself personally, I have to make sure that I'm still planning, because now it's not a whole process of requesting time off for a supervisor. I have to make sure myself that I'm also managing self-care and taking care of myself. But as far as with my business, I feel like that could be part of when discussing with the organization and talking with the supervisors, making sure that they're doing that, because I'm not sure every supervisor is doing that. So making sure that's part of their process of effective supervision and effective weekly check-ins.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you for that. Dr. Farron, you want to take the next question?
Yeah, you know me, I'm ready. Nicco, I'm so excited about your new business. You sound like a natural leader. You sound like a person who, builds great relationships with your staff. So tell us about your new business. Tell us about when you started it, why you started it.
Yeah.
What are you doing with it?
Yes. So brand new business. So like I said, when I started, it's called Purpose Works Consulting Group. I launched on October 6th. I'm doing consulting services for juvenile justice and child welfare programs. So I'm working with organizations to help with contract compliance. So making sure they can pass audits and maintain their contract. I'm doing operational efficiency, so they have the right processes in place. I'm doing leadership development and training, risk management with organizations, and also one-on-one coaching. So all inclusive. So I really want to help organizations be effective. And part of that also is reducing turnover and managing retention.
Mhm.
And I've always I grew up watching Shark Tank, as I'm sure a lot of us did.
I love that show. I love it.
It's a great show, and I've always had the idea of starting my own business, but there's a lot of thoughts that go through your head. Like, are you going to be successful? Is it going to work? Are you going to get clients? But I got to a point where I really wanted to venture out and do my own thing and be my own boss. And I think the thing that made it exciting is to be able to make a larger impact, right?
Yeah.
Because right now I've done all of Central and South Florida. I've done North Florida, and with this opportunity, I can help others outside of the state of Florida as well. So it's an opportunity to make a larger impact and help these organizations.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice. So, launching your own business is, again, it's different, and we're on LinkedIn, right? So we're streaming to LinkedIn. We are full of entrepreneurs in the audience, business professionals, things like that, or people who want to, or thinking of starting their own business or company. Like, what is something that, give me, what is the one thing that went really good for you, maybe like in a decision, whether it's branding or, something along, or something that you discovered was like, I didn't know this was something I should do. You know what I mean? Like, help people, just to give them a bit of advice.
That's a good question. There's a lot. It was interesting. I did my launch and I didn't get a lot of engagement with it as I expected. So that was a little bit discouraging. But I think one of the things working through is what that was probably the challenging is the website, right? And
Yes.
so much that you have to work on with your business that you don't want to focus so much on your website, but it's so important. So
Yes.
making sure you get the website down and marketing. Marketing I've learned on LinkedIn is very challenging to get engagement, even like successful business pages. It's like really hard. So navigating that has been challenging. So I think it's just you learn as you go, trial and error, seeing like what times work. I posted this time, I didn't get a lot of engagement. I posted this time and I did. So it's a lot of like trial and error that I would recommend is
Yeah.
trying different days, different times for marketing.
Yes. Thank you for sharing those and being transparent, because there are challenges you're going to come across as a new entrepreneur, new challenges. And, honestly, this is my personal opinion. If you're not tweaking and looking and reviewing and changing and tweaking and looking, you're not going to grow. If you're just going to stay here and say, well, that didn't work, then you're definitely not going to grow. So I'm going to bring up the network again, because we have Think Tank Thursdays once a month. And this is a space where we come in as entrepreneurs and we talk about things like that. We might say, this isn't going so well. And 5 people may give you a suggestion or give you contacts. Like, that's a huge piece. So making sure that you're networking and connecting, like you said, Nicco, like you can do a launch, but, and you learn valuable things, I'm sure, from that. And you can still continue to launch. So you're in a year, in my opinion, Nicco, you're launching now. We are launching now. So, it's going to keep being launched. And so, that's just the beginning. You're just at the beginning of it. So, definitely give yourself grace on that launch.
Yeah, and something that my previous CEO said all the time, and it's so true, getting comfortable being uncomfortable.
Yes.
A lot of entrepreneurship is being uncomfortable and growing through it, but through that, you just grow professionally. You grow so much going through those difficult times.
Yes. 150%. All right, Damien, I'm gonna be quiet. See, I told you what happened.
No, you can access.
Hand me the mic and I just go.
Just keep going. I love this conversation, and I love that we're having this conversation at this point in your entrepreneurship. Because a lot of times people see on this platform, and we always talk about it, especially when we talk about the hard truth of entrepreneurship. You see individuals who are at their almost finished product look, and people think that it happened overnight, and it's a process that you got to go through. Like you talked about, I think it was operational assessments, and doing those. You're doing that right now. Like when you talked about, you did a post and it didn't work here, and this post worked better, and that post worked better, and having those operational assessments and assessing things, you're always assessing stuff throughout to see what's working, how your audience, and that's how you build your demographics, your target audience, your outcomes, and then you start to get that level of data where you can say, all right, this is working and that's not working. Myself and Dr. Farron have been like meeting and talking, and we're looking at the data, we're understanding things like, this is our sore spot, this is our hard sell spot, here's where it's not working, here's where we get a lot of support and engagement, here's what the audience needs, here's what we want, and here's where we want to grow when we're doing these summits and also growing the network. And I love that you're having this conversation and talking about it from that perspective and space. Can you give me one offer that you give that people underestimate when they're doing in business to avoid burnout? So one is you told me a lot of things you're doing: leadership supports, operational managing. What is one element that sticks out to you that people tend to overlook?
I think the biggest one, I mean, there's a lot. I honestly think it goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is supporting your team. I mean, I think that's huge. I think a lot of with this field, it's always going to be stressful at times. You're going to have hefty caseloads. It's sometimes hard to negate that, but if you don't have, or if you have a supervisor who's not supportive or who's not there, who's willing to help you, that's just going to lead that person more so to get off board and find another job. So I think the biggest thing is supporting your team. Like you said, weekly check-ins, supervisions, meaningful evaluations. I think that's the number one underestimated thing when it comes to burnout, is lack of support from supervisors.
Go ahead, Dr. Farron. I know. So why this work? Why not go into your the original field that you wanted to go in as a kid? Why not do, I know you're a big football person. Yeah. Why not go into some level of sports, entertainment, and football? Why this field? And why Nicco?
Yeah. It's truly my passion. It's something that I enjoy doing. It's something that fills my soul up. It's honestly what motivates me and keeps me going. Like, going back to a conversation earlier when we were talking about doing radiology, like, it wasn't my passion. It was just to make money. And honestly, I knew it wasn't going to satisfy me. So this work is obviously challenging. It's difficult. It can be stressful. But it's worth it because it's worth making a difference. And I've always told myself, we're not going to save, unfortunately, every kid or every family, but even if we can make a difference in one child or one family's life, like, that's, to me, is worth the work.
And I like that you said that, and you're like bringing that home and talking about it. Like, you had an opportunity to work in a field where you can make money. Yeah. But it wasn't your passion, and a lot of time when we call to, like, Dr. Farron works in the human service field when she's an educator. You work in this field. Vast majority, a lot of us are working in this field because it's our passion, and we tend to stumble on it a lot of times. There's times when people just know, they just woke up, pre-K, first grade, second grade, kindergarten, middle school, they knew where they wanted to go. And a lot of times that's great. And then it's the other few who are stumbling upon it. I stumbled upon social services and human services. Mm-hmm. It was my passion and my and I stuck with it, the same as you and Dr. Farron as well. And I love that you're bringing that up and having that conversation. In order to mitigate burnout, you have to be passionate about what you're dealing with in order to support other people, because what it is and where you're coming from. And I know you talked about 2018. Lay had a question for you. Can we get to it? All right. She wanted to know, do you have a guide for making comeback after an episode of burnout? Like, how does someone come back right off of a level of burnout? For me, for burnout, I didn't even know I had it. So,
yeah. I think for me, it really depends. where the burnout is coming from. I think for me, personally, where I was able to come back is healthy eating, right? I think a lot of times when we're in the field, we're grabbing and go, we're eating fast food, we're drinking soda. And I think a lot of that time that can also lead to our burnout. And for me, it was kind of getting back to the healthier eating. So that would be like meal prepping or drinking plenty of water. So different things like that. I mean, but it just kind of depends what the burnout was from.
Thank you.
So Nicco, what do you do? Two things. How do you recognize if you personally are burned out, and what do you do? You just talked about healthy eating, but what do you do to either, prevent yourself from burnout or repair yourself?
Yes, for me, I can tell when I'm getting burnt out when I'm stressing, when I'm constantly thinking about work and not able to turn it off. And I go to sleep and I'm still thinking about work. And, you wake up and you're not restful and then you're tired. And then it's kind of like a cycle that continues to repeat. So that's kind of my telltale signs of burnout. So some of the things that I do, and it can be simple, like I said, it is making sure I'm eating clean as well, but also if going on a 15-minute walk, I love, like I said, when I started, I love being by the water. So walking by the water or working out. I know a lot of us are really busy and don't have time. So I would suggest, walking first. And then as you kind of get more consistent with it, then trying to go to the gym. So those are the things that kind of help me
Mhm.
with stress and burnout.
Yeah, I love that. That's great. Yeah. It's I think it's important, like, when people finally can recognize it,
Yeah.
and have courage to do something about it. I think sometimes we sit in like this cyclical space of just thinking it's going to end and it's going to end and it'll get better, it'll change into this, and sometimes it builds up on us, and then we explode, and that's no fun either.
I
That's not
think I think also it's important, when I did have a work phone is when you're off, shutting off your work phone and closing your laptop. I think a lot of us, like I said, we have a lot of passion and we want to help, but it's that will just continue to contribute to burnout if you're continuing to work when you're supposed to be off. So turning off the work phone, shutting the laptop, and taking some time for yourself, doing things you enjoy.
absolutely. Absolutely.
So when you talked about shutting off the phone and closing the laptop, what is the biggest adjustment you had to make from going from working for someone or with someone to working for yourself in your own business? What did
Yeah.
you notice?
So obviously the biggest adjustment, so you're so used to getting a paycheck every 2 weeks, so now you're kind of reliant on yourself to have the income come in. So when I was at my previous job, I did work from home, so I'm still working from home now. So it's the biggest adjustment is making sure that you still have your priorities and that you're still staying disciplined, right? Because it's so easy working from home to get distracted or watch Netflix. So it's making sure that you continue disciplined and to have a set schedule. So that's because when you're at a nonprofit job, you have a set schedule. I'm doing this, and everything. So when you have your own business, you kind of have to make your schedule what you're doing. So it's important for me to write everything down as if I'm doing a 9 to 5 job. So these are the things I'm going to tackle no matter what.
I like that. Thank you. See, there's good tips out there, people. Thank you for sharing that. I have another question. So you're building a company, building a brand. What is the ideal client, and what is a good fit for you for people to work with in your new company?
Yeah, I think
And, and also, can you say the name of your company again?
the name of my company is Purpose Works Consulting Group. The ideal client is an organization or agency that has a true passion for wanting to make an impact with youth and families. They have a strong culture. Um, and ideally, I would like to have a conversation with the CEO so I can kind of get a true diagnostic of what's going on in the organization, because if I can't have that conversation, I don't think I can truly find out and dissect what's going on. So that's super important with me. And, it might be an organization or agency that has all those things, but they may be struggling with the contractual side of things, or they might be having issues operationally or having issues with burnout. But they want to make a difference. They just need a little bit help. So that's kind of where my expertise could come in and help some of these agencies.
Operational organization for sure is huge, right? And if you don't have it, it can really lead to a lot of issues, right? From top down, down up, however you want to look at it. So definitely having someone like you come in would be very beneficial for organizations to get that bird's eye view, right? It's kind of an unbiased perspective. You don't know the staff. You don't have a lot of relationships with them at this point in time. So getting some feedback, learning more about it. I love that. I think that's great. I would love to know a little bit more about Nicco, though. I would like to know what motivates you. Where's your motivation come from?
I feel like it's just something. I feel like it's motivation is a hard thing because it can be lost and gained. I'm more so with consistency. And when we get to the question, I have my favorite quote that relates to that, because for me, it's so hard to do motivation, to stay motivated. But I think what helps me, again, going back, is the passion I have to make a difference with the youth and families, and then also living a healthy lifestyle. A few years ago, I was overweight. I was not super happy, and so I made some changes in my life. So I have a motivation to stay fit, to stay healthy. So between those two things, those really help me. But for me, it's more so about consistency. It's about getting up and tackling the day, even if there's challenges or obstacles in the way.
Love that.
So I do want to say something. I have a story, and a funny story. It's funny to me. About Nicco and meeting him. So Nicco's from Florida.
Oh, Lord.
And we were in the middle of Nebraska, and it was extremely cold.
-14.
Yes, -14. And he's coming from the sun, the warmth, and then he had to have the coat on, but he would be downstairs on time every day because we would carpool together. And the funny part about it was -14 and snowing, and then the next day it was like 60 degrees. You remember that?
Yep.
It was the weirdest thing ever, that it was so cold. It was like it felt the fact it was like -14, but it was like -4 outside though. And it felt like -14. And then the next day, it was like 58 degrees. It was the weirdest thing ever. But he would always be there on time every morning and whatnot. We rotated who drove to and from. So that was one thing that came to mind when we were talking about motivation. Coming from a sunny place, going to a place where it's cold in the Midwest, and still being able to be on time and be locked in and focus on training and development and the business aspect of going to work somewhere else.
Yeah, and the lady up front knew I was from Florida because I had like 3 layers of clothes on. She's like, "You're from Florida, aren't you?" I was like, "Yep."
That's hilarious. I don't blame you. I'm enjoying more and more time in Florida myself, so I love the weather there. It's beautiful. I don't blame you one bit. That's awesome. That's a great story. I'm just sitting here thinking about you right now, Nicco, and I think probably if I had to take a stab at it, a lot of your motivation probably comes from watching your staff members flourish as well.
Yeah.
Probably great pride in watching them grow and flourish and meet the next challenge. And that says a lot for a leader, to want to empower their staff and to watch them grow instead of feeling threatened by them, but wanting to be more encouraging, and as well as all of the staff, in the supervision tree. But I get that impression from you that you probably become motivated by hearing success stories or seeing them.
Yes. Yeah. I did a going away party with my team, and they wrote a nice letter and gave me a card, and it, was made me a little bit emotional, but it's also like rewarding to know that you made a difference, and,
Yeah.
and then super excited for their continued growth and leadership in their roles as well. So it was
Right.
really cool.
Yeah. I could see that. I definitely get that impression that you definitely get some great pleasure out of watching your staff grow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So we're coming up to the end of the conversation. Drop any questions you have in for Nicco. If he doesn't get them now, he'll get to them later through the chat. We do have a question. Sean had a question for you, Nicco. How do you help leaders recognize when their drive is actually early burnout warning signs? That's a good question.
That is a good question. I think drive is a good thing, but I think it kind of goes back to what I was talking about earlier, is if you notice the staff member that's continually working or working off the clock, or, picking up their phone, checking emails when they're not supposed to. And I think leaders or supervisors can do that by, if they see them send an email and they're supposed to be off the clock, is having a conversation with them. So I think that's the biggest thing, because I've seen that too. And with myself, because I'm a hard worker and would work really hard as well. But I think as a supervisor, you have to kind of pick up on some of those things and have a conversation with that staff member to say, hey, you cannot be working off the clock. This is for your benefit. And so I think working with leaders to look through some of those signs.
I love that, because you know what that tells me? That tells me that you have to know your employees.
Exactly.
You have to know the people you're supervising well enough to know that and to have that conversation with them. So, and I'm glad that you're going to work with some leaders too, so that they get that message as well, and say, so that those leaders know, let's not expect our staff members to do this. When they're off, they're off, and, I think that's critical. I've always told people, I will text you if I need you. Like, go do your thing. Like, if there's an emergency, I will let you know. Go enjoy your day off. Oh, well, I could jump into that meeting. I don't want you to come to the meeting. I'll fill you in when you get back. Like, we've got to just remove that stigma from people of thinking that the only way that I'm going to climb is if I am, burned out. And the effects of burnout, like, we didn't even really get into that piece, but just those outward effects of burnout that people have. I mean, when you talk about the physical ailments that people can have from stress, the mental illnesses that you can have from stress, just your emotional state, your energy level, like, all of those things come into play when we are experiencing burnout. And there are windows of time in our careers. We've talked about this a while ago. There are windows of time in our careers where we maybe have higher volume, higher pressure. So how do we deal with that? You're a retail worker, say, and it's the holidays. You're in retail, it's the holidays.
Mm-hmm.
How do you help yourself at that point in time? Instead of adding more to your plate, what are you taking off? And so really helping people understand that, I think, is so critical. So I'm excited that you're here today. I'm excited for the work that you're doing, because it's definitely needed. Again, we just wrapped up the virtual work-life balance, the professional work-life balance summit, for just that reason exactly, because we have people that stretch themselves way too thin.
And mm-hmm.
Last question from Sean, and then we can go into the quote.
Sure.
Sean is asking, how do you coach leaders? And I had the same question in my head, who wear burnout like a badge of honor, or they just don't even identify it.
That's tough. I mean, I think that could definitely be a different conversation with the organization, if that's the right leader on the bus. Because if you're having a leader who's wearing burnout like a badge of honor, I think that's a huge issue. So I think I mean, you can try to work with the leader and go through like the importance of burnout and recognizing it and why it's important. But I think with the leader like that, I think that's tricky, and it's probably best would probably have a conversation with the organization, probably needing to move on, because it sounds like that's not a right fit for the organization.
Well, thank you for getting to Sean's question, and to Sean, and thank you for putting those questions out there as
Thank you,
well.
Sean.
All right, so we're not done because we don't finish unless we close with a quote. Dr. Fang, you want to take this one?
I do. And I'm stepping away. I'm going with the burnout theme here because my quote is, if you don't take care of yourself, no one else is going to. So you have to take care of yourself because you are important. That's my quote.
Nice. Nicco, how about you?
So I have it's actually a quote by Denzel Washington that I'm sure you've all heard. It says, "Dreams without goals are just dreams, and ultimately they fuel disappointment. On the road to achieving your dreams, you must apply discipline and consistency, because without commitment, you'll never start, but without consistency, you'll never finish."
Nice. I like that one. And mine's a simple one. It's as always, don't let 10 minutes of a bad moment disrupt the other 23 hours and 50 minutes of your day. Make every minute, every day count. 2350 Network. Time to bring people together. And I think it's on brand with the theme of what's going on here, as well as, reach out to Nicco, reach out to myself, Dr. Farron, connect with Nicco. Nicco, do us a favor. Can you put your company in the chat, tag it so people can know where to connect with you and you as well. Your website, put it in the chat so people can connect with you as well. And thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, and thank you everybody in our audience. I think there's a few people we didn't get to recognize, so let me zip through this very quickly here. Sean Michael, I know we've had your questions up, but thank you for being here. Linda popped in. Thank you so much for being here, Linda. Felipe, yes, we'll get that call settled. No worries. Thank you, Felipe, for joining us. Mac, thank you for being here tonight. And I think I might have grabbed everybody. So, and those of you that are in Calm, Michael or Malcolm, thank you for being here. Those of you that are joining us on replay, thank you for watching. Drop your information in the comments also. Let us know a little bit more about you, and we can keep the conversation going in the comments after if necessary. We're happy to do that with you. Thanks, Nicco. It's been great getting to know you.
Thank you. Great getting to know you as well.
Yeah. All right.
All right. And take care. We'll be back next week.
Thank you for attending the 2350 Effect. If you are interested in becoming a guest or a sponsor, please contact Damien or Dr. Tanya. Join us every Sunday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for the 2350 Effect.